Chinese President Xi Jinping attended the first China-Arab States Summit and the China Gulf Cooperation Council Summit in the Saudi capital, Riyadh. How will this visit weigh on ties between China and countries in the region? And China continues to optimize its COVID measures. What to expect from an economic point of view? Welcome to The Point, an opinion show coming to you from Beijing. I'm Li Xin. Chinese President Xi Jinping just wrapped up his visit in Saudi Arabia over the weekend. The trip saw him attending the first ever China-Arab States Summit and the China Gulf Cooperation Council Summit held in the Saudi capital, Riyadh. Xi said the exchanges between China and Arab states date back more than 2,000 years since the ancient Silk Road, in a signed article published in a local newspaper. President Xi also met with his Tunisian counterpart, Kais Saied, to convey China's firm support in Tunisia pursuing a development path suited to its national conditions. What topped the agenda at these first ever summits, and why do Arab countries need China and vice versa? How will the summits shape China's relationship with countries in the region? What does China bring to the region that others don't? I had the pleasure to talk to Khemaies Jhinaoui, former Tunisian foreign minister and founder and president of the Tunisian Council for International Relations. How do you look at the first ever China-Arab States Summit? How important do you think it is, and why do you think the timing is set now?
Well, I think it's a very important event, taking into consideration, what is going on now around the world. It's the first time that the Chinese leader meets his counterparts from the Arab world. They have many things to talk about, particularly bilateral relations. And as you know, China is a major partner with the Arab world. Trading as well as investment partner, but there are many things also to talk about politics. What is going on in our region? There are a number of regional issues which still not resolved, and China, being a permanent member of the Security Council, has, I think, an important role to play to help, settling these issues. There is what is going on now, the war in Ukraine, and the impact of that war on the geopolitics, but also on the economy. And I think China and the Arab world, they have a common, purpose to work together in order to, to have peace, in that part of the world, but all over the world also.
Well, this is the first ever China-Arab States Summit. I know that you participated in the 8th ministerial meeting of China-Arab States Cooperation Forum in 2018. Is this a step higher in bilateral ties? And why is it so important specifically? Just now you mentioned a couple of international geopolitical situations. Why is it so important for China to step up relationship with Arab countries and vice versa?
Well, I think both parties need each other. I mean, with the Gulf Cooperation Council, there is a talk going on almost now for 16 years, about a free trade area between China and the Gulf countries. And I think it's a good opportunity for them, both of them, to discuss it and maybe finalize it, because Minister Wang Yi said later that the agreement is in the final stage of conclusion, and I think that's a good opportunity. The Arabs, Gulf countries, they are relying mainly on oil export, and they are willing now to diversify their economy, increase the trade between China and their countries. It's very important, China being, an important partner, almost 330 billion US dollar, the volume of trade between the two parties, but also investment. And the Arab partner are willing to diversify the relation, to invite China to invest, in high-tech sectors, invest in maritime, sectors by building ports, infrastructure, and I think there are many common interests to develop such economic relationship.
If you look at a lot of reports, especially from Western media reports, you get the idea that China is trying to take some part away from what used to be a closer relationship between Arab countries with the US-led West. Somehow they're saying China is trying to take that away, or it's a zero-sum game. But if you look at relationship between China and Arab countries, as I mentioned in the leading, this relationship dates back 2,000 years. So how, from an Arabic perspective, how do you look at the kind of legitimacy, let's say, or necessity of China restoring its relationship with Arab countries?
I think honestly, I don't think the matter is choosing between China and the United States. From the Arab perspective, I think it's increasing relationship with an old partner, China, but that does not mean that the Arabs will look away from their relationship with the United States. They have also strong relationship, particularly the Gulf countries and even North African countries. They have good, substantial relationship with the United States, particularly on economic, but also on security. And I think that will continue from the Arab partner. So it's not choosing between China and the United States. It's, developing a relationship with one major partner, which is China.
Yeah, some people would argue that it is a kind of choice, because when you have, for instance, an infrastructure project, whether you give it to a US company or whether you give it to a Chinese company, you can only give it to one company. How do you look at that?
Well, that's the economy is, since we are living in a free world, I mean, countries are competing with each other to gain more, part of transactions. So I think there was a summit between the Arab and Muslim world and the United States in 2017 in Riyadh itself. The same summit also with the Gulf Cooperation Council. And in few days, there will be another leader meeting between the United States and Africa. So these things are going on. And I don't see it as, a major, shift from the Arab world towards China. I think it's increasing relationship with China as an important partner, which will help, keeping peace in the world. But also, it's a good opportunity for both parties to develop economic cooperation.
In terms of the petrodollar, which is very much in the discussion, what is your opinion? Is that also in line with this diversification approach that Arab countries are taking? Because again, this is a very much contested issue, and Arab countries are seen to be shifting away from a very close relationship with the United States in terms of the denomination of energy.
Well, what I can take from the press reports, which I am reading, this has been, subject of talk between Saudi Arabia and China for a number of years now. I don't think, honestly, that it's about there will be a decision regarding this. Saudi Arabia exports 25% of its oil export to China. So it's China being an important partner in this field. There is an interest from the Chinese partners to use, yuan as a way for their imports of oil. But the still dollar is an important, currency. It has been there for a number of years, since 1974. And I don't think there will be a major shift. This is my personal opinion, regarding this in the coming days. But this summit offers a new platform for both parties, Saudis and the Chinese, to continue discussing these issues and maybe look at it in the future.
How do you look at the mentality that somehow Arab countries are a kind of US backyard or former US backyard? So everything China is doing is in the geopolitical sense. How do you look at this kind of mentality? And also when you read these reports, it's always kind of trying to draw a line of ideology or, you know, human rights record. It's always from these perspectives. How do you look at that?
Well, I don't think honestly, I think there is a strong historical relationship between the Arab world and the United States for different reasons. The United States having, played an important role in security of particularly in the Gulf countries. And that goes back to the 70s. I don't think, so there is a strong links between both parties, and that link will continue. Particularly with what is going on in the Gulf country itself, between Iran and neighboring countries, what is going on in Syria. So there will be always, a talk and relationship with the United States. But there is a will now, with what is going on now in Russia and Ukraine, to try and diversify relationship and look to new opportunities from the Arab world. But I think the relationship with the United States continue to be a substantial one.
Finally, what can China offer to these regions that the United States cannot?
Well, being a neighbor, it can offer more than the United States. It's very important that China, being an emerging economic superhouse, it can expand its economic relationship with this region. It can help, develop and improve the infrastructure. It can be a good partner in technology. They can work together for what we call the green economy and renewable energy. I think there are plenty of opportunities for both parties to develop, particularly on the economy, but also on trade. Also, that's China being a huge consumer country. It can always continue importing, oil and energy, but also can import other products from the Arab world, which is still quite limited now. Talking about Tunisia, we have a large deficit, between us and China. So there is a good opportunity for Chinese party to look to the opportunity of importing more goods from the Arab world. But from the security point of view, I don't think China is the policy, which I understand from when I read the statement made by China. China is not willing to interfere in local politics, does not interfere in the way these countries are handling their domestic issues. So there is here a strong basis, for developing a relationship between the two parties.
Thank you very much, Mr. Khemaies Jhinaoui, former Tunisian foreign minister and founder and president of the Tunisian Council for International Relations.